7 bone-chilling, true trespassing horror stories that haunt you at midnight. It was a night like no other in a small town. Shadows flickering ominously across old streets. Whispers of terror creeping into the hearts of even the bravest souls. 7 stories of trespass that would send chills racing down your spine. Imagine, if you will, the unyielding tension as a figure slips silently through the moonlit streets, darkness clutching at their heels. Every creak of the floorboards seems to echo like a booming thunderclap, and every rustle of leaves dances like a serpent's hiss. The first of these spine-tingling tales starts in the eeriest of places, an abandoned mansion, shrouded in legends of restless spirits. Local kids dared each other to step inside, but no one returned unscathed. Some claimed to see flickering lights in the broken windows. Others swore they heard laughter, but it was not the laughter of living children. It was something darker. A chill would wrap around their bones any time they mentioned it, like icy fingers squeezing just a bit too tight. Fear clung to the air, thick and suffocating, as if the walls themselves were feeding off their anxiety. Then there was the whispering woods at the edge of town. They say souls tangled in frayed memories stalk those trees. One night, a group of friends decided to camp out there, convinced the stories were just local folklore. As the fire flickered, shadows danced in the perimeter of their visibility. Hushed voices crept through the branches. Leave, go back. Fans of horror might have laughed it off, but their breaths quickened as an unexpected rustle proved they weren't alone. Something or someone was watching them. Each tale twisted further, and the urgency grew as the darkness closed in around them. One teenager vanished without a trace while trying to climb a fence into what was nicknamed the haunted field. Almost a decade passed before anyone dared to step foot in that long-forgotten space again. When they finally did, the earth was undisturbed, yet a lingering sense of dread prickled at their nape like the sharp edge of a blade. What happened to that kid? Did he find something he was never meant to discover? Was he still there? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. An inexplicable chill hung in the air as the stories pressed on, every detail bleeding into the next, leaving an unsettling mark like a stain on fabric. A man woke one evening, eyes wide, to a figure standing in the corner of his bedroom. It remained still, watching. His heart hammered against his ribs, adrenaline pulsing through his veins. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. Sweating with disbelief, he dared to step out into the night. But the streetlight flickered ominously. Was it warning him or watching? As your thoughts spiral, remember that everyone in town had come to share the stories, yet they never shared the same ending. The air was heavy with unanswered questions and echoes of dread. A feeling hung. Would you dare to find out the truth? Could you be the next one to uncover a secret hidden in shadows that should never have been disturbed? The moon hung low, casting a silver glow on the town. It seemed to bleed into the cracks of the pavement, illuminating stories long buried in darkness. The eerie silence of the night was punctuated by the timid footsteps of a girl named Lily, who had become obsessed with discovering the truth behind the haunted field. Unlike others, her curiosity eclipsed her fear. A reckless bravery pulled her toward that cursed spot where the teenager had vanished all those years ago. She gripped her flashlight tightly, its beams slicing through the suffocating darkness. With every step she took, memories of her childhood stories whispered among friends washed over her. Tales of a boy who dared to trespass, who didn't come back. Was she following his footsteps or something more sinister? The field stood before her, a tangled mass of weeds and gnarled branches. It felt like the earth itself tried to keep secrets hidden. As Lily crossed the threshold, a gust of wind swept through, bringing with it a chill that nipped at the back of her neck. She hesitated, but the thrill of the unknown propelled her forward. Just then, the air shifted. A sound emerged from the depths of the field, a faint whispering, like voices intertwined with the rustle of leaves. Leave, go back. The echo sent a shiver down her spine. It was as though the earth was warning her, yet something deeper within urged her to press on. She was determined to uncover what lay shrouded in darkness. Drawing her breath, she scoured the ground. The tall grass teased her ankles, brushing against her like fingers yearning for attention. Strange symbols etched into the earth suddenly caught her gaze, half obscured by dirt. Each line spoke of forgotten rituals, lost to time but steeped in foreboding. Who did this? She whispered, her heart racing. She stepped closer, as if the symbols were magnets pulling her in. The ground felt alive under her feet, thumping as though it had a heartbeat of its own. In that moment, she felt it something watching her lurking just beyond her line of sight. A shadow darted through the trees, quick as a breath, leaving only silence in its wake. She swung the flashlight around, breath hitching, but nothing was there. The whispers seemed louder now, almost mocking her resolve. Leave. Go back, panic bubbled in her throat, but still, an insatiable curiosity twisted in her gut. With one last look at the symbols, she heard a distinct crack. A branch snapped somewhere behind her, gulping hard. She turned, feeling the weight of something unyielding behind her. It clawed at her senses. The jungle of trees whispered their warnings, leaves rustling more violently. Lily, a voice beckoned, a familiar voice that stopped her cold. It was a voice she hadn't heard in years. Is that you? She cried, her chest tightening. Jack. Before she could process anything further, she was yanked backward, pulled into the thicket of trees as an unseen force wrapped around her. It felt potent and terrifying. Shouts escaped her lips, but they barely broke through the sound of rustling leaves. Lily. A second voice echoed, mingling with the first, terrifying her further. Two figures emerged through the trees, faces obscured by shadow. They were hiding something. Don't trust them, came a frantic whisper from the darkness. Who could she believe? As they reached for her, the air grew thick with tension. Sweat dripped down her brow, her instincts screaming that this was no ordinary encounter. She wrestled free, the flashlight slipping from her hand and plunging into darkness. What did the shadows want with her? And where did Jack vanish? The field that had once called her felt like a trap now, every instinct clawing for escape. Would she uncover the truth, or would she be another lost soul trapped in the clutches of the haunted field? In that moment, with fear prickling her skin, she decided she had to know, but could she handle what came next? A silence greater than any storm loomed as she stood on the brink of discovery, the darkness looming closer. What awaited her in the shadows? Would she find out why? No one ever returned. The moment Lily was pulled back, the world around her blurred into chaos. Hands gripped her arms, their bony fingers sending a shockwave of fear coursing through her veins. The shadows closed in tighter, and the rustling leaves seemed to clap in dark delight, mocking her desperation. She twisted, kicking out, and finally broke free, stumbling forward into the dim light cast by her fallen flashlight. Her heart thundered in her chest as she turned to face her captors. The figures before her flickered like ghosts, their features obscured by the night. One had shoulder-length hair that framed a gaunt face, while the other's eyes glinted with a predatory intensity. They moved closer, and Lily's pulse raced in time with the whispers that filled the air, intensifying with every heartbeat. Do you have any idea where you are? The one with the wild hair asked, voice low, burdened with shadows. You shouldn't have come here, Lily. How do you know my name? Her voice trembled, hot anger battling the icy grip of fear. She searched their faces for any sign of familiarity but found only emptiness and a flicker of something forbidden. We're here to warn you. The second one spoke, stepping into a patch of moonlight. It revealed a boyish face marked by anxiety, eyes darting toward the thicket behind them, as if something in that darkness was alive. There are forces at play here that you can't understand. Lily's mind thrashed. Jack's voice, the eerie whispers, the symbols etched into the ground, it all twisted into a single knot of confusion. What forces? Where's Jack? He has been missing for years. The boy's jaw clenched, and worry etched deeper lines on his face. You don't want to know. Believe me, if you love him, you need to leave now. Behind them, shadows swirled, writhing like snakes in the night, threatening to engulf her and the others. The air began to thicken, tinged with an acrid scent of decay that churned her stomach. She lifted the flashlight, its beam flickering weakly, and felt a surge of determination. I want to leave without finding him. I'll face whatever is out there. The wild-haired figure stepped back, eyes wide with desperation. You think you can handle it? You think the field will give him up so easily? Suddenly, the thick underbrush rustled violently, and something darted out a blackened, misshapen form. It screeched, tearing through the night. Lily recoiled, her breath hitching as she caught a glimpse of something monstrous, eyes burning with malice. Run! The boy shouted, and in that instant, the weight of his warning bathed her in dread. She sprinted, heart racing, without thinking, knowing they were hot on her heels. The shadows were relentless, crashing through the trees as if angry spirits chased her through the night. Lily burst into the clearing, the hushed voices and faint lights flickering in her peripheral vision, only to be swallowed again by darkness. She could hear them still, the whispers, the warnings that wouldn't let her forget. Leave, go back. But she wouldn't. Jack needed her. Desperation fueled her, pushing through the fraying edges of her sanity. She glanced back, and for a brief moment, the moonlight illuminated the figures, fear in their eyes mixed with something like sorrow. Then, all at once, there was silence. The shadows stopped their pursuit, and she skidded to a halt. The world felt impossibly still. The oppressive dark seemed to rise and thicken like mist, cocooning her in uncertainty. What is happening? She breathed, fear creeping like ice through her veins. And then, eerily, she heard him, a distant voice calling her name. Lily, help me. Her heart burned with unresolved tension. Was it truly Jack, or a trick of the dark? She clutched her flashlight like a lifeline, fear and hope battling within her. Should she brave the shadows once again, echoing his name, or turn back to the companions she barely trusted? The weight of the decision loomed heavy as she stood poised between courage and instinct, caught in a spiraling torment. What would she uncover next? Would she reclaim Jack, or would the field consume her too? The voice continued to call, weaving through the silence that had settled around Lily, tugging at her spirit. Lily, help me. It was like a thread pulling her deeper into the darkness. Each whisper sent a chill down her spine, a cold reminder of her desperation. Jack, she called, heart racing, her voice echoing in the abyss. The shadows drew closer, curling around her like veils, enticing her to step further into their embrace. Was it really him? Could she trust what she heard? Stay back, shouted the wild-haired figure behind her, his breath heavy with urgency. You can't. Ignoring him, Lily took a step forward, her flashlight illuminating the darkened path ahead. The beam groped for shapes, but all it found were twisted silhouettes of trees, their branches clawing at the sky, desperate to pull secrets from the night. The voice faltered, replaced suddenly by a cacophony of raucous laughter. Sounds from every corner crashed over each other, mocking her resolve. They were the shadows, she realized, laughing at her foolishness. The very field had teeth, and it would tear apart those who dared to tread too far. Don't, the boy pleaded, wide-eyed. You're making a mistake. But Lily was consumed by a mixture of determination and fear. She knew Jack was out there. Some part of him lingered, begging for her to find him. If he is in trouble, I want to leave him. As if responding to her defiance, the darkness grew thicker, more tangible. The air turned electric, and she felt a shudder ripple through the ground beneath her, like a warning from the heart of the earth itself. The laughter stopped, and for a brief moment, everything felt suspended in time. Then, as if on cue, a new sound sliced through the stillness, a low growl that vibrated through the trees. It wasn't just animalistic. It was intelligent, primal, and it made her blood run cold. Lily hesitated but then bravely advanced, deeper into the field, the flashlight shaking in her grip. Jack, where are you? The panic tightened her throat. The shadows seemed to clump together, coiling like snakes, ready to strike. Lily, the voice called again, closer, more pleading. She felt the first hint of clarity, a flicker of recognition igniting within her. Jack, his face, his laughter, their memories flooded her mind, overwhelming her with urgency. She ran forward, ignoring the burning in her lungs, pushing through the cold that enveloped her like a shroud. But as she stumbled deeper, a white glare erupted in front of her. A figure materialized, its outline seemed to shift, flickering like an old film reel. She squinted against the light, fighting the urge to flee. Help me! Jack's face emerged, contorted with fear, eyes wide and frantic. But the familiarity began to dissolve, replaced by something grotesque, a warped version of the boy she loved. Lily, don't listen to them now. This wasn't he, right? Fear pulsed in her veins. She desperately scanned the surrounding darkness for any sign of the wild-haired boy or the anxious figure who had warned her. Get away from him, she shouted, though her voice quaked. The shadows began to reach for her, tendrils stretching out like hands trying to grasp her, pulling her into their abyss. The laughter surged again, this time echoing from the ground itself. Leave, go back, it's not safe. And then she saw it, lurking behind Jack, a shape, a monstrous shadow, slinking toward her with the intent to devour. It was the terror that haunted the field, and she was caught in its crosshairs. Lily's heart raced as she took a step back, the shadows pressing closer, filling her with dread. She was torn between the love she felt for Jack and the horrifying reality that he might not even be there at all. As desperation clawed at her insides, she had to make a choice. She could fight the darkness or succumb to it, but either way, she understood one thing: she couldn't stay in the field any longer. Lily helped, the voice echoed, but it twisted and coiled, mixing with her own heartbeat, distorting into something that made her stomach churn. Staggering back, she whispered a silent promise to Jack, one she hoped she would keep. With a jolt, she turned away from the dark figure that had once been her heart and sprinted toward the nearest edge of the clearing. But as she raced, the shadows lunged toward her, hungry for her fear. Would the field relinquish its grip on her? Or was this a chase that would lead her down a path from which there was no return? Lily's feet pounded against the uneven ground, each stride fueled by urgency. The air crackled, charged with a malevolent energy, but she didn't dare look back. Behind her, she could sense the shadows closing in, felt them like a cold breath against her neck as they reached hungrily for her retreating form. Jack, she screamed, though the name barely made it past her lips. It felt like a plea, a prayer, and it barely registered against the rising chaos. The beam of her flashlight wavered, searching desperately for a way out. The darkness swallowed the light in eerie silence, a void that screamed of despair. Then, just as suddenly, a flicker caught her eye. To her left, a narrow pathway cut through the trees, an escape route cloaked in weaving shadow. Maybe this would lead her out. Maybe it would lead to Jack. Without hesitation, she veered toward the path, the hunger of the night echoing behind her. But as she plunged into the thicket, a sharp pain shot through her ankle. She twisted, collapsing against a gnarled tree, gasping as pain lanced her body. Ignoring the throb, she pushed herself back to her feet, limping forward deeper into the woods. Come back, Lily. The boy's voice wasn't far behind. Was it genuine worry or the twisted mirage of the moment? She didn't dare stop to find out. Yet the darkness shifted, and with it, the air thickened, becoming oppressive, wrapping around her like a second skin. Every rustle of branches sent shocks of fear into her chest. And then, from behind the crooked trunks, she saw them. Figures. Shimmering outlines that danced just outside her vision, flickering like flames caught in a storm. Help is coming, they whispered in tandem, their voices soft yet urgent, as if they were calling her to succumb to them. She pressed her eyes shut, knowing she couldn't let herself be seduced by the chaos calling out to her. No, not again. She had lost too much already. She pushed on, dragging her foot, dread pooling in her stomach. But now, she felt the laughter tumble away and silence fell like a blanket. It was eerie, as if the very woods held its breath, waiting, anticipating her next move. Lily came, a weak, trembling voice. This time it felt closer, intimate enough to make her heart flutter with fear and hope. Was it really Jack? Or was it just another trick, another wretched echo designed to ensnare her spirit? The trees parted unexpectedly, and there, in a small clearing illuminated by a ghostly light, stood Jack, or at least a version of him. His face was pallid, eyes wide with fear, but not the familiar twinkle she loved. This was a hollow shell, a memory twisted by the shadows that cloaked him. Lily, please, help me, his voice cracked, sending worry spiraling through her. The thing behind him loomed larger, a broiling silhouette shifting, a grotesque reflection of her worst nightmares. No, she shouted, the word ripping from her throat. She felt a sudden surge of anger. The shadows could not have him. Not again. Drawing a deep breath, She reached for the beam of her flashlight, swinging it wildly toward the creature. The light struck its form, and for an instant, a horrible, gaping mouth formed where the head should have been, throwing back its own monstrous laughter. In that moment, everything exploded, a cacophony of sound and fury as Lily felt herself charged with adrenaline. There was no way she was about to lose everything. Not now, not ever. Lily, turn away, please. Jack's voice begged once more, and for the first time, it sounded genuine. This was not the swamp of shadows. This was the boy she knew, trapped in their snare. But the creature lunged then, its mass swirling with a darkness that felt alive, and Lily stumbled back, paralyzed by the raw fears surging through her. With a fierce decision, she ripped herself from the ground and darted away, not sparing a glance back, not risking the danger that spun behind her. But how far could she run before it caught her? And just as she reached the edge of the clearing again, a gut-wrenching shriek shattered the air, the sound of the shadows crying out as they lost their hold. Lily's heart raced in time with her steps, but something deep within instinctively warned her it wasn't over. What would happen when she broke free? Was it truly freedom that awaited her? Or did the field await, more treacherous than imagined? There was a choice to be made. Would she dare to face the truth within the shadows, or keep running, forever haunted? The underbrush whipped past her, sharp as knives against her skin, but Lily didn't dare slow down. Fear propelled her, a rocket launcher of adrenaline that hammered her heart against her ribs. Each breath felt like her last in a world that turned sinister the moment she stepped into the depths of these woods. Lily, you have to listen. Jack's voice strained behind her, a thread of desperation woven into every syllable. It echoed through the trees, tangling in her mind like a fine spider's web. If she could only reach him. But the shadows weren't just behind her. They were creeping inside her thoughts, twisting hopes into nightmares. They whispered promises, but colored with dread. Jack, she called back, but it came out broken, ragged. As the path narrowed, her ankle screamed in protest. Each step was a throb, a reminder that the shadows had already taken something from her. She faltered but pressed on, gritting her teeth against the pain. The hollow laughter roared in the rear. It was a symphony of dark, writhing shapes colliding, crafting a dreadful mantra: faster, Lily, faster. Panic clawed at her throat, and with every ounce of will, she pushed deeper into the twisted maze of trees. The air turned thick, making it hard to breathe. What did those figures mean when they whispered help was coming? Help, or a deepening horror disguised as salvation? Then, out of the perpetual gray haze of dusk, she spotted something ahead. A break in the trees, a small stone arch emerging like a portal into the unknown. The ground beneath it shimmered faintly, as if trying to lure her in. Her heart sank. What if it's a trap? But there was no time for questions. Her instincts screamed that she needed to go. Maybe it was a way out. Maybe it led to Jack. Her heart pulsed with a flicker of hope, igniting urgency. She lunged for the arch, heart hammering, thrusting into the openness beyond. What was outside? Freedom? Or worse? The moment she made it through, she felt the darkness shift again. The trees behind her seemed to murmur, their voices slipping into a chorus of hissing shadows, angered by her escape. Lily! The sound erupted from behind her, a final warning carrying a mix of sorrow and fierce determination. She turned, her breath catching. Jack stood just on the edge of the forest, reaching out. His face was haunted, glistening with dread. Don't come any closer, she shouted, fear wrestling with desperation. But the moment stretched painfully. The shadows were alive, pooling around Jack's feet like a storm tide, dragging him back while he fought against it. I can help you, Lily, please, he pleaded, voice cracking. The shimmering outlines returned, now forming a gale of shapes that flickered just beyond her vision. Join us, Lily, they murmured, the softness of their tone coated in venom. Should she step back into the trees? Embrace the carefree call of the shadows? Or remain here to what end? Lily's heart raced with conflicting emotions. She glanced back toward Jack. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of the boy she once knew. But what if that was just another trick? Lily, he cried, stepping forward a fraction, the shadows yanking at him with relentless force. She felt a tear roll down her cheek, a mix of fear and fury. For once, she couldn't be a coward. She needed a resolution. With a tremor gathering in her chest, she took a step forward, fighting the growing terror, and reached for him. Just as the shadows lunged with an echoing crash in that moment, time fractured. Would they embrace or be torn apart? In the heart of that darkness, everything hung in the balance. And as she reached, a dreadful gasp echoed through the arch. What lay beyond could change everything, or doom them both. Lily, no? Jack's voice shattered the air like glass, but it was too late. What awaited her on the other side was no mere shadow, it was a choice that would decide their fates. The world beyond the arch enveloped her in a chilling embrace. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the pressure of unseen forces eased just a fraction, enough to let her gasp for air. But it came with a price. A flicker of warmth she craved so badly vanished into the cold void around her. She was in a clearing, but not just any clearing. The ground was covered in an iridescent mist flickering like dying stars, oddly captivating, almost hypnotic. Towering trees loomed with twisted limbs outstretched like skeletal fingers, their bark blackened and gnarled. It felt like stepping into another dimension, one where the sun never fully shone and shadows thrived. And where was Jack? The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. She turned, desperate to look back through the arch, but it had vanished, replaced by an unbroken wall of darkened trees. Panic surged again, gnawing at her thoughts as her heart raced. Jack, she whispered into the stillness, hoping against hope that somehow he could hear her. The only answer was the echo of her own voice swallowed by the mist. Then, a low laugh unfurled through the air, ghostly and mocking. It wrapped around her like a noose, tightening, squeezing. It was familiar, yet foreign. Lily, you're here now. The voice sent a shiver skittering down her spine. It was a temptress, weaving sweet suggestions laced with menace, coaxing her deeper. Who are you? She shouted, voice quaking. A figure emerged from the fog, wispy and shimmering with a translucent glow. One of the shadows. But this one was different. Its features shifted, morphing into faces she recognized: friends, family, even Jack himself. They smiled at her through the veil, but their eyes were voids, pulling at her very essence. Stay, Lily. We can be together forever, they whispered in a chorus that made her blood run cold. Forget the pain, the fear. We can be free. With every second, she felt stronger under their spell, torn between two worlds. Memories of laughter crumbled under the weight of despair. She clenched her fists, willing herself not to give in. Jack's face floated to the surface of her thoughts, and her resolve flickered. Get away from me, she screamed, shaking her head defiantly. They recoiled momentarily, their ghostly forms flickering like dying embers. But the laughter returned, more potent, surrounding her like a storm. You think you can resist? You can't escape the truth, Lily. This is your home now, the shadows hissed, inching closer, intoxicating her with promises she had almost forgotten. She felt the pull, a terrible longing for something just out of reach. It pricked at her mind, beckoning her to relent, to just succumb. In that moment, doubt crept like a thief into her heart. What if she could let go? What if the shadows were right? But at the thought of Jack, everything shifted back again. Memories of his laughter, their plans, their dreams, it all struck her like a tidal wave. She couldn't lose him to this. Not like this. No. She took a step back, trying to break the spell, shaking her head violently. I want to let you take me. Suddenly, the clearing erupted in a cacophony of cries, angry and desperate. The mist thickened as the shadows recoiled, their faces twisting in frustration, eyes blazing with malevolence. The ground beneath her shuddered, and then silence. In the stillness, something else stirred, far off in the shadows, a figure emerging with a purpose. This one wasn't a shade. It was solid, stepping into the light. Her breath hitched as she recognized the unmistakable form Jack, but changed. His eyes were wide, reflecting a fierce determination that sent adrenaline rushing through her veins. Lily, run, he shouted, his voice reverberating with urgency. Before she processed his words, the ground shuddered violently. A rift opened beneath her feet, and fear gripped her heart. Shadows swirled, extending their tendrils like claws ready to snatch her back. Jack! She yelled, her voice nearly drowned by the chaos. But before she could move, she felt the pull of darkness tugging at her. Time seemed to slow as she glanced back at Jack, who stood before the entity, defiantly facing the shadows, ready to fight for her freedom. Would she make it to him in time? Would they break free of this sinister web together? Or would the shadows consume them both? As the rift widened, a dreadful realization dawned upon her. Choosing to plunge toward Jack could either save them or seal their fate. And all she could do was leap. Lily leaped into the void, her heart pounding as she propelled herself toward Jack. Time blurred. Every second stretched into an eternity as she hurtled through the air. The abyss below yawned, dark and alive, and she could almost hear the shadows whispering her name, urging her to turn back. But Jack was there, his expression fierce and desperate. She hoped with every fiber of her being that their hands would meet. She slammed down, hitting the ground hard, knocking the breath from her lungs. Pain rippled through her, but it was nothing compared to the joy of being closer to him. Lily. Jack reached out, fingers brushing hers just as the rift behind her snapped shut with a horrifying finality. The air crackled with a violent energy, the very atmosphere charged with tension. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern flooding his voice. "More than okay," she gasped, a wave of relief washing over her as they stood together, side by side. But the victory felt fleeting. The shadows were regrouping, swirling menacingly just beyond the edge of the clearing. Those familiar voices taunted her again, now punctuated by a new sound. Screams echoed through the fog, raw and desperate. It struck an eerie chord deep within her. Jack's face paled. "We need to move. Fast." They sprinted deeper into the clearing, but the world twisted and distorted around them. The trees leaned closer, their branches creaking like ancient bones. The mist thickened, coiling around their ankles, dragging at them like a grave. With each step, the cries grew louder, gnashing against her eardrums. It felt like many shadows were rising. "What is happening?" she demanded, glancing at Jack. His expression was grim, the determination in his eyes hardening into something ferocious. "The shadows, they're gathering, feeding off fear and despair. We need to find a way out, or we'll be lost," he replied, urgency lacing his words that a flicker of hope sparked in her chest. "We'll find a way, I know we will." But even as she said it, an icy dread curled around her spine. The laughter from before roared back like thunder, echoing off unseen walls. Shadows darted in and out, whispering secrets she couldn't understand, playing tricks on her mind, igniting long-buried fears. They stumbled into a grove where twisted trees morphed into grotesque shapes and formed a monstrous visage, looming over them. It looked almost alive. Eyes like charcoal glowed wickedly, as if it held a conscience, a predatory hunger. "It wants us," Jack shouted, pulling her back just as a shadow lunged forward, claws extended like blackened glass. "Run," she screamed, adrenaline pumping through her veins. They darted away, their breaths coming in ragged gasps, adrenaline firing them up. But the shadows wouldn't let them go. They swirled around, closing in, boiling in rage as tendrils of darkness shot toward them, attempting to catch them off guard. Lily felt her feet slow, the mist wrapping around her like chains. It wanted her to stop, to surrender. She fought it with everything she had, bursting forward with a renewed sense of purpose. "Jack, this way," she yelled, pointing toward a gap in the trees, a flicker of light beckoning from beyond. Just as they sprinted toward it, a force struck her from behind. Pain exploded in her chest, and she gasped, nearly toppling. She whipped around only to see Jack fighting back against a whirlwind of shadows, his back turned, fiercely battling the tendrils that clawed at him. "Lily, go?" he shouted, his voice hoarse. "No, I can't leave you," she cried, lunging back toward him. And that S when she saw it, a swirling mass reaching out for Jack, an insatiable hunger in its grasp. Fear gripped her, freezing her in place. Jack's face, determined but pained, locked onto hers, urging her to escape. "Trust me," he shouted, throwing back another shadow as it lunged for him. But doubt snaked into her mind again. Was he right? Did she dare abandon him? The shadows lunged fiercely, surrounding Jack, cackling with fury as they pulled him deeper into their dark embrace. "Jack!" she screamed, horror welling up inside her as she felt the distance between them widen. In that moment, a decision formed in her heart. She had to choose. Would she plunge into that gap of light or risk everything to save him? Her pulse thundered, the shadows threatened to swallow them both. and time paused in cruel anticipation. And then, with a shaky breath, she took a step forward. What awaited them beyond the light? Was it a path to freedom or an even darker destiny? The choice loomed heavy over them, and the shadows closed in tighter. Lily's heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency in her thoughts. She stood frozen, the light ahead pulsating, a beacon of hope contrasting starkly with the looming darkness behind her. She didn't want to leave him, but could she save him? The shadows roared, desperate to snatch them both into their eternal night. Lily, Jack's voice sliced through her turmoil. You have to make a choice. A weighty silence wrapped around her, the cacophony of cries from the shadows quieting for a brief moment. She locked eyes with Jack. Fear was etched deep into his features. I trust you, he pleaded, but she could see the uncertainty hidden behind that bravado. Was he really asking her to leave him behind? The specter of doubt loomed larger. In a heartbeat, she imagined the darkness carving him into pieces while she ran. How could she live with that? Gritting her teeth, she called upon every ounce of willpower. I'll come back for you. I swear. With those words, she took a step into the brilliant light, its warmth enveloping her instantly. The shadows recoiled, hissing like 1,000 snakes. She stumbled forward as the glaring brightness engulfed her completely, momentarily blinding her. Then silence. Lily blinked furiously, trying to focus. She found herself in a meadow, vibrant with colors that made her heart feel uncharacteristically light. The flowers danced in the gentle breeze, unfazed by the turmoil she had just left behind. It felt surreal, so innocent and untouched. But the laughter of the shadows echoed ominously in her mind. And Jack, where was Jack? Panic coursed through her. The meadow concealed no signs of her friend, not even a shadow tracing the edge of the trees. Jack, she shouted, but her voice echoed back, lost in the vast expanse. Jack, she called again, her voice teetering on desperation. Nothing. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet trembled, the lush grass warping and writhing like serpents. The beautiful scene began to crumble. The trees at the borders twisted into grotesque forms, limbs stretching like claws towards the sky. Lily stumbled back, her heart thrumming wildly. Instinct kicked in. She had to move. As she turned to escape, she caught a fleeting glimpse of something dark darting between the trees, a flicker of movement that twisted her stomach in knots. Jack, she screamed, dashing towards the darkness, but the shadows grabbed at her ankles, pulling her back. She wrestled against them, but their grip was unyielding, cold tendrils snaking around her. Lily, the voice came from nowhere, yet it resonated through her like thunder. It was Jack. She felt a surge of determination igniting within her that propelled her forward. Even as the shadows clawed at her, Lily called on a vision of Jack, his brave smile, his fierce spirit, the way he always believed in her more than she believed in herself. I'll find you, she promised, pushing against the shadows with every fiber of her being. The world around her dimmed, but just as hope began to fade, she spotted a flicker of golden light in the distance. She sprinted towards it, the shadows hissing in outrage, their voices rising to a shrill chorus that rattled her bones. What more will you sacrifice? What will you give up for him? They mocked, their laughter spinning around her like a whirlwind. Everything. Lily snapped, unfazed by their taunts. She was willing to do whatever it took. The golden light grew brighter, shimmering like a doorway to another realm. With every ounce of strength, she flung herself forward, and in that moment, she could almost feel Jack's presence urging her onward. Would she breach the light and reunite with Jack, or would the shadows consume her entirely, leading to her own doom? The uncertainty crushed her with every pulse of the darkness festering behind her. As she tore through the threshold, reality warped again, twisting around her. And just when she thought she would break free, a scream shattered everything. Lily. It was Jack's voice, piercing and desperate. Suddenly, the light flickered, and doubt seeped back in. The shadows writhed toward her, a cacophony of rage and despair. Was she too late to save him? The choice was clearer than ever. To plunge further into the unknown or turn back into the depths of despair for the one she loved. With her heart pounding like a war drum, she stood on the brink of everything she feared most. What choices would she face next, and would the shadows win? The moment was now. and she could feel the fatal pull of both darkness and light in her veins. Lily felt the raw energy pulsing around her, the shadows clawing at her ankles, desperate to reclaim what they nearly lost. Visions of Jack flickered in her mind, his laughter, his warmth, their shared moments, but those memories twisted, becoming fractures of pain. Lily. The intensity of his voice grabbed at her heart, a lifeline in a sea of chaos. She steeled herself, blocking out the tormenting whispers surrounding her. They ricocheted off long-forgotten fears. You don't have to go back, they hissed, an unimaginable urgency woven into their darkness. You can stay here, be free of pain. But Jack's cry pierced through. It wrapped around her like a thread of hope, igniting a fierce determination. Retracing her steps was not an option. She wasn't the girl who would give in to shadows. Not now, not ever. With a fierce shout, she lunged forward, ignoring the slithering darkness that attempted to latch onto her. I'm coming for you, Jack, she yelled, pushing through the biting dread that wrapped around her. Emerging from the shimmering glow, the world shifted again, the heaviness pressed down around her like a thick fog. She stumbled into a new space, one echoing with loneliness and sorrow. It felt familiar, the soft whimpering, the empty silhouettes that brushed against her heart. But the golden light shimmered still, guiding her towards something indefinable. Jack, she called, the name bursting from her lips like a burst of uncontained energy. Then, through the shimmering haze, she saw him half shadow, half man, standing near the edge of the light. His figure was entwined with darkness, yet his eyes held something stronger, fury and hope. The shadows wailed, sensing her approach, swirling like hungry wolves ready to attack. Lily. Jack's features hardened. You need to go. It's too late for me. The weight of despair sagged his voice, breaking her insides. No, I want to leave you. Tears streamed down her face, the echoes of their shared memories cascading like a waterfall of light. You're still in there. I know you are. With each desperate word, a crack formed in the swirling void, illuminating their connection. The shadows hissed, furious at the flicker of hope. You think you can save him? He belongs to us. They wrapped tightly around him, eager to draw him further into their depths. Lily. Jack cried again, straining against the dark tendrils. The golden light glowing behind him pulsed, drawing in her fear and surging it toward magnetism. No, she shouted, propelled forward by his pleas and the essence of their love. Summoning every ounce of strength, she charged through the haze. We belong together. The ground shook violently, the shadows roared in response, but the glow intensified, surging power through her veins. Come back to me, she begged, her heart aching with urgency, and then it happened, a final rush. She sprinted forward, throwing her arms out as if she could envelop him in a cocoon of light. Her heart raced, hope and terror intermingling. The moment their fingers brushed felt electric, an intense connection binding them in a fierce grasp. The shadows recoiled, their furious screams fading as Jack ignited with a brilliant, golden glow. Lily, he cried, his features sharp. Hold on. In that instant, they were engulfed in light. Everything twisted and blurred as they were consumed, but there was no fear, only warmth, like sunlight on a winter-esque day, washing over them like an icy blanket melting away. When the light finally cleared, they landed together on solid ground, panting and disoriented. The world felt different. Colors sparkled, the air shimmered with life, and the shadows had retreated, vanquished. We did it, Lily breathed, staring at Jack, who looked as real as ever, his familiar smile flooding her with relief. The shadows that had gnawed at them faded, overshadowed by their reunion. Together, he whispered, that unique light in his eyes flickering back to life. He gripped her hands, grounding them in this new reality. You came for me. They both laughed, a beautiful sound echoing against the remnants of fear. As the sun began to rise, illuminating their world, they knew they could face anything together. Their shadows no longer lingered. Instead, they cast their own, a physical reminder that love could be powerful enough to conquer darkness. With a shaky breath, they stepped forward into the warmth of a new dawn. We'll never forget, Jack said, a fierce determination lighting up his voice again. No, Lily nodded, squeezing his hand tighter, the moonlight glistening behind them like a sweet memory of the past. will always fight together. And as they walked, side by side, into their new beginning, shadows receded, no longer holding dominion over their hearts. The end, yet a beginning. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support by smashing the like button now. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait for even one more second to share this epic finale with at least 5 friends who need to see it. Your engagement matters. Let us hear from true fans like you.